Hmm. Okay, so we're now live. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining one more time at the Baseline Show in India. We do this every Saturday at 6 p.m. and we welcome community members and contributors to the Baseline Protocol. I'm Samrat Kishor, part of the technical steering committee at Baseline Protocol, and also the head for India community. With me, I have our featured speaker today for today's episode, Anais Frank. We have Mark Haddle, we have Mohan, all very well established members of the baseline community. I'm going to start with one small custom, which is playing the baseline theme song, and this is our India specific theme song. So here it goes.
We can't hear it. I hope they can hear it on YouTube though.
So yeah, so that's the theme we're going to be enjoying going forward. So so here we are, everybody. So today's agenda is very clear. While we are leading up to a different segment of episodes coming up in September, where we are lining up a lot of external featured speakers for our shows. We are currently in the process of rethinking, the way the shows are being conducted and the way the community is being built. So a lot of organizations had shown interest in the past, and we've been talking to them on various aspects of collaborating. Their marketing teams are working with us. We are also presenting in some of the largest events which are coming up in India and abroad. ETH Atlanta, for example, ETH Atlanta, we're going big on ETH Atlanta. Consensus is sponsoring Baseline Protocol to be present at ETH Atlanta, and a lot of our community members have already voted positive about the hackathon prizes being sponsored from the fund which Baseline Protocol had. So that's a major update for every community member. The second most important update that we have is NATC, NASCOM Annual Technology Conference is coming up in September 23rd to 22nd to 24th of September. And Baseline Protocol is going big this time on NASCOM Annual Technology Conference. So we're going to be uh, participating via Microsoft Accenture. We are currently talking to folks there. We'll also be so our head, our TSC chair, John Wolpert, he'll be speaking. He has a big slot. He'll be speaking about a lot of things, baseline, and and we also have Andrea's friend. We also have Kyle, who's taking up ZKP. Andreas is speaking on DIDs. I am speaking on cybersecurity on blockchain, and I have another co-speaker in my session, Dr. Mesem Islahi. He's from EC Council. So we've got a power-packed lineup from baseline. A solid representation from baseline community into the NATC. So it's going to be big, and I invite all contributors, community members who are currently associated with us to participate in this event as it comes up. Oasis has kindly extended their support in promoting this event, both these events actually. So, and they've already started. I think it's going to be huge pump for baseline community. We're going to be. Um, I think that's a clear point of validation. As far as it comes uh, to companies, come joining us as sponsors. So this is a huge. So we are actually at a tipping point, and I'm really excited about it. And over to you guys. The others have been the others have been quiet. So yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, I think it's a great direction. It's a good step in the right direction. I mean, uh, from my point of view, I don't come from a blockchain background, as everybody on the on the call knows, but the interest from Baseline come really from integrating and solving real business problems. So going
Yeah.
the extra step and leaving the blockchain focused community and engage with a wider technical profiles and decision makers on the business side to articulate the business value proposition, to really explain what the protocol is about, what the standard delivers, and what are the opportunities for both software and service providers out there.
Yeah.
It's great. So having this great lineup of people who know the protocol inside out from various perspectives as well will do us good, great, I would say. So that's good. Yeah.
Awesome. 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 Mark, you want to come in?
I would say no. This is a tremendous opportunity with a hugely expanded reach. As you had said before, you said India is the back office of the world, and it involves many of the people that would actually be involved in you know thinking all of this out and then implementing it and then actually using it once it became implemented. As well as a lot of people, coming in and saying, this is this is so much easier than what we've been trying to work with blockchain for the past probably 5 or 6 years, and we keep running into these persistent problems with scaling and covering the last mile. And blockchain is baseline is a technique that really you can achieve so much of the use case intentions without having to completely upset the entire landscape. You basically, without a huge capital investment and, using the existing environment and without having to incur the expense of doing that. This is absolutely wonderful of how we're doing, and then getting more people aware.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what we're working towards. So I think the first, so we're in the 6th week of the India baseline show, and the different episodes that I've done. And Mark, Mohan, you've been very consistent on my episode. So these have been towards uh, educating people, towards motivating them to come become part of it, and showing them the bigger picture. We also had some industry specific episodes, right? So
We also had
that
some
was
industry specific.
I could hear myself from somewhere.
Yes.
So we had some industry specific episodes. I think those were also pretty important um, ones, and I found a lot of value personally. Connecting with different speakers and different aspects of various industries which were discussed on our shows. Mohan, you want to come in? Your thoughts
Yeah,
on the recent
I
updates?
think
What's
I
happening?
think the NASCOM thing is going to be huge because in all of this, it's been quiet. We haven't had too much chatter on the India baseline, right? But I think with NASCOM, if we follow it up with some hackathons in India, I think it'll start, really heating up. I think the momentum has to be maintained, and I think with the version 1.0 and the provide implementation kind of coming out, I think the timing is all right. I mean, it's all in the stars. The
Yeah.
stars are lighting up.
Yes.
Stars are aligning, absolutely. So yeah, it's wonderfully timed. 22nd to 24th of September, NASCOM event, and 1st to 3rd of October, the ETH Atlanta. And
Are we going to have a Ganesh Puja there?
oh yeah, why not? We should do that.
He's by the way, he's the water of all evils, and usually any auspicious events are launched with
Yeah,
a prayer
he's the
to
god of good
Lord
starts.
Ganesh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we should definitely have that. Yeah, that's a good idea to give a Indian flavor to it. So coming back to Anais. So Anais, over to you. I would want you to talk a little about your motivation, your background, your motivation to join the community, and how you've been contributing. All of us know that you've done a fantastic job on the standard. So congratulations and kudos to that.
Thank you.
You also won a recent grant in the community. So I think you should talk about the various aspects of your contribution and how you came about becoming the head of the standards committee, uh, and also winner of the recent grant, and what are your plans in future. Plus you also have some slides to talk about, right, on the baseline
Yes,
protocol.
yes.
So go ahead,
Okay.
all yours.
Okay, so let me start since the beginning. I actually started contributing 1 year ago. It was August 2020. I think at that point, it was just before the release of V0.1. So there was something to look at. So because I have a technical background, even if I'm more on the business side now, I just jump into it because I recognize very much the business value, and I will keep insisting on the business value. At that time, I was working on a project, a large financial transformation with a global company. And it was a significant headache looking at age debt and trying to reconcile and adopt best practice and looking at SAP. And they were going through an acquisition and there was Oracle. So it just spoke to me. It's like, that's what we need. Is it ready? Let's go straight into it. So my initial desire to contribute really came from this, the recognition that, okay, there is something there in terms of solving real business problems that enterprises are facing. And if there is an efficient way to do so in a cost-effective manner, I need to understand. So I reached out first to John Wolper, I believe, and I expressed my interest. We had the first call. He explained a bit the org structure, the governance, and everything. And I had done some reading myself, so I had some questions about it. And straight away, I decided I will commit the time and to get deep into this. So, and it was a bit of a good coincidence, I would say. In September, there was the first technical steering committee vote.
Yeah.
So I was encouraged, I will put it that way, based on the different contributions I had done on the repo. So at that time, it was a baseline roadmap repo, some use cases and some documentation consolidation and other like code-related questions that I had put to apply basically and to see if people would vote based on the content of those contributions, and they did. So at the beginning, it was really trying to understand where to add value. And I think for each contributor, it's always the same question, based on my skill set and experience, where can I have the most impact? And from a requirements and articulate what the enterprise needs, I would say, it was kind of a natural fit for me to go more on the standout side of things. I'm also part of the maintainer team, but it's more to be the voice of the standout to ensure the alignment between what the maintainer team, or core dev, as they will be rebranded very soon, and the standout team is doing. So yes, that's really how it happened. And obviously I met Andreas, which for me is Sensei Andreas. I've learned a lot from the approach to standout development as well. So we are all familiar on the call with business requirement, technical requirement, and all of those things. But the skills for writing standards and Oasis and all that comes with it it's a different thing, and that's something which I find valuable. So that's how it started really, and 1 year in, this is where we are. So in terms of what we have done over the last year, at the beginning, we really focused on what should the standout include? What should it be? And then we went and we decided, should I share my screen maybe? It will be easier.
I
won't
can.
read through it.
Yeah.
But because we are reaching basically the draft completion and everything, I think it will be a good update to provide to the community.
I've given you the right, so you can actually share your screen if you want.
Yeah, it's nothing sexy, okay, but I think it will give us a good understanding.
Check out my baseline swag. I've got some baseline mugs made.
Oh, really good.
I also have a couple of t-shirts. Yeah, go ahead.
So when we speak about the baseline standard, we are really speaking about 3 different specifications. So the baseline core, the baseline API and data model specification, and the baseline CCSM, so consensus control state matching specification. Those are 3 distinct documents, but they are all part of the baseline protocol standard. So they are all required for baseline implementation to be compliant. So the core, well, I won't read the detail, but I will just explain at high level. It's the functional and the non-functional requirements so that enterprises can operate confidentially and deliver on very complex business processes, so they can collaborate with each other over a mainnet. So there is some technical terminology, which is obviously as part of every standard included at the very, very beginning. So the core is this, and I would encourage, it doesn't matter if you are a technical, a developer or not, I would say that the first part of the standard, understanding why do we even need the baseline protocol and the design architecture and what is meant to deliver, will be a good value to anybody who is interested. So you don't need to read all the rest. It's a big chunky document, but the introduction and the first part, which is design and architecture, I believe, yes, it's worthwhile. If you are really interested, it's definitely worthwhile having a look at this. And obviously, the API and data models, so all the set of interfaces and the data schemas and everything. And the CCSM, because as we know, the premise of the baseline protocol is that we operate over a mainnet. So, but what is a mainnet, and can we abstract to be more inclusive and to be more future-proof? So we started with mainnet, we went through DLT, and we settled on the terminology consensus control state machine. So basically what this third document includes are all the requirements that must be satisfied by such mainnet to be able to deliver a baseline protocol compliant implementation. So those three drafts are on the repo, and they are very distinct in their intent and their purpose, but each of them are required. And basically, when we talk about baseline protocol V1, we talk about the completion of all of those three specifications, but also the source code. So V1, what is on the core. So if you go to the GitHub repo, baseline, not the baseline standard, just baseline, you have the core. So all those interfaces compliant with this API and data model. So at eye level, I won't go too much into the detail. Okay, but are there any questions? You were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say that people should also, if people are going through these documents, they should also pay a lot of attention to, I think the definitions that we've included there, because I think all of that coming together, it's been through a lot of hammering, and now the definitions which are now published there, they're super cool. Especially CC the
CCSM control. Well, this is basically mainnet, DLT. Fancy words,
So fancy, but insightful. I would say that because that's the way we go into abstraction and then we find some value there. So that's what I see interesting in this. So yeah, cool stuff, Anais. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead with this one.
Okay, so I will just go and provide at eye level the different components of each specification. So for core and for API. So for the core, there are really 7 building blocks, I would say. Everybody go read design and architecture. It's very interesting. It's very insightful, and it doesn't go into technical detail. It's very accessible because it's what is it about, what we are trying to accomplish, and what is our thought process behind it, basically. Then we have everything related to identity, so decentralized identity, federated identity, etc. So which is a big topic, because one of the key, I would say, goal would be for each enterprise participating in baselining to own their own identity, unless they choose to delegate, obviously. Then we have abstraction layers, and I will show a bit later to make it more concrete. So the BPI, so a baseline protocol implementation, and basically, let's say the mainnet to simplify. Then the middleware, communication, and interoperability, because let's not forget, at the end, it's all about integration, right? we want system of records of each participant to baselining to be able to stay in sync, so data synchronization and workflow continuity. Then we have everything related to workflow, work step, transaction life cycle, the storage and storage capabilities requirement, and a big thing, which is where compliance comes into conformance. What are the test clauses, the different level of compliance, etc. So I would say the core specification is not for the developers to go through it. It's for the auditors and for all those people within enterprise, the legal side, and that needs the insurance that, okay, is there a standard that exists? And if I need to dig into it, okay, I can justify. This is the document for them. So now when we go into the API, and there is a Swagger API already published, I think it's 99% there. It's all about the different interfaces. So we have I believe it's called the iBaseline RPC, but let's refer to it as baseline. So it's everything related to the middleware interfaces for baselining the different system of records. Then we have a registry, so everything related to the management of work groups, the organization, etc. Then Vault for digital authentication credential. CCSM, again, mainnet, okay? If you see CCSM, think mainnet. And everything related to privacy, so the interfaces for zero knowledge protocol, cryptography, and the different aspects of that as well. So this will be the specifications that developers will want to get into and see. So if I have to show quickly, it will be basically this. And everybody who is a developer will recognize this. So it's nothing much. And for the other one, oops, yeah, do you want me to stay there or yeah? Yeah, and for the other one, as I was saying, the core, I think it will help a lot, as you were saying, to just have a good understanding of the definition. What is a frame of reference? What is a bridge? What is a connector? Whoever wants to implement does not need to go through that. I insist, because there is a very thorough implementation guide that goes requirement by requirement to explain what those are and how they could be implemented. So that would be the document, the most appropriate document for implementers. But whoever is interested in understanding, okay, what this is about, the glossary and introduction, design and architecture will help. From a business analysis, again, for a business point of view, commercially, guiding, binding, good document, all of those are covered within that document. So in a nutshell, yes, please go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Why don't you finish it then?
Oh, I was just saying, in a nutshell, this is where we are. Those drafts have been completed, and we will expect to go through the OASIS ratification process very, very soon for hopefully have published standard, let's say early so Q1 2022. I will put this like this. Yeah.
Early 2022. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I think, one thing which I can definitely say out of our internal meetings that we recently had, that people from Oasis did mention that this was one of the fastest groups which came up with the standard, and now on the path to be ratified and becoming a ISO standard. I think that's something commendable, and so you should give yourself a pat on the back. Of course,
it's not only me, everybody involved.
Of course,
so I will give myself the pat, but I will every all the team members, all the contributors.
Yeah.
So the question. Sorry,
yes,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Man.
Yeah, the question I had was, so the ratification will probably occur early 2022. What about the requirement? Is there requirements for open sourcing anything that's built, like including connectors?
So the core V1. So should I share my screen? So I find it easier in general to show where everything sits. So let's start from the very beginning. So when you go under the EA community project, you have baseline standard, which is where all the drafts for the specification sit. But if you want to see the code, the open source code, you will go under that repo baseline. Under baseline, there is a core here, and this is where all the open source will be released. What we call V1 will be released under this. So right now, if you access, you will see V0.1 that was published last year. The goal for us is to have V1 published, so all those interfaces to be updated or completed this year. That will be where those sits. So in terms of the connector, for example, the Excel connector that has been developed by Bishwashri in the context of the grant, that's one of the requirements of the grants. Everybody that has been allocated a grant has to publish their source, their work open source. So under which repository? I believe it will be under baseline, maybe not example. So example under examples, we have the different reference implementations. So we will have to ask actually a good point where maybe we should add another directory for connectors, for example, and just put it there. But I'm not too sure where it is at the moment. Yeah.
So given the fact that if you get a grant, you are required to publish whatever connector or component or anything that you develop as an open source. What happens if right now, for example, there is no grant money available, right?
Mhm.
I mean, for now, apart from the Atlanta, there is no more grant. So if someone is developing a connector, so what is the requirement there if they're doing it on their own, for example?
There is no requirement to open source, or you can do like provide. If you go under the provide reference implementation, which is BRI1, you will see that some components are fully open source and some components are just black boxes. You use provide components, but you cannot change or access them. So there is, for a contributor point of view, and of course, there is the economic element to it. People who are not receiving grants are free to do whatever they want. Of course, we will encourage, if you see value or if you need help as well from the community to help develop, as a faster or more complete way to open source, that could be the way to go. But it could be perceived as well, oh, I'm building a product, my product is a connector, why would I want to open source it? So it depends. There is no strict requirement on what should be open source or not.
And if
Okay.
you're not open sourcing and if you're releasing a component,
Mhm.
and you are, how do you verify compliance? I mean, who's
Yes.
testing compliance?
So we are in the process of building all those test classes. So part of if you remember in the core, the last section is conformance. So all those test clauses and test classes. So the process, when the standard will be published, will be to go to a third party. We will see who that third party will be, and to have the code, go through all those conformance clauses, and it will be determined if they are compliant to the standard or not. And to what level? Because the standard has different level of requirements. There are must-have requirements, so the minimal you have to do it, whatever implementation, but there are optional requirements as well and conditional requirements as well. So every implementer will be free to, it could be a competitive advantage to say we have implemented all the requirements, the must-have, the should-have, the could-have. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. No, this is very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of our community members will be interested in watching this show while they're live or as a recording later on YouTube. So this is really interesting. So, Anais, could you just walk us through one individual trying to join the community now? How do they go to the standard? How do they adopt it? How do they start stuff
Yes.
which we want them to do? Just quickly, maybe 5 minutes, just talk about that. And a newbie
Okay.
individual joining today,
Okay.
what will be
I
their
would
path?
say first we need to understand that there are different onboarding paths. If you are a developer technical, or if you are more interested in the community marketing or business development, or if you are more interested in the standard. So there are like the three clear paths. If you are a developer, I would say first resource or go to the dev channel on Slack, engage actively with Sam Stoke, who is leading the maintainer/core dev team, and get familiar with the source code, I would say, from a developer point of view, and the open issues. The first step to get involved will be want to see if you can tackle any of the open issues. And there are issues which are labeled as good first issue. I believe that's the label. So try to get into those good first issue and see if you can add value there. But it could be as well that I believe there is a new contributor who started this week, or who joined, this week. And he asked question and he realized, oh, when I deployed on my Windows machine, there were some steps missing from the tutorial. So he will put a PR to address those and help others. So I would say just get in there and see where you can add value, identify the low-hanging fruits that you can just pick and say, okay, I can do this, I can do that. So now if you are not a developer, so you may be more on the business architecture, enterprise architecture, or even further away, business side, I would definitely say to reach out to the outreach team to understand more about what they have been doing to date. And it's Melanie Sommelier, I believe, who is still leading that team. So I would definitely go to her and engage with the outreach channel on Slack. Yes. And if you are interested in standard, you go to Andreas or to me. And so in a nutshell, those will be the three. Always go to the person maybe who manages. So because they will know how to direct you, because we know where we need more help as well. So we can say, okay, you want to join, do that, do this, do that. So yeah.
So people who are on YouTube and watching us later, The website is baseline-protocol.org. Go to the website, you'll find links to all our different community channels, the YouTube channel, the Slack channel. Once you've joined in, and there's a lot of documentation also, which
Yes.
is available now. And Anais has also taken up the mammoth task to bring order to chaos and set all the documentation right. So now there'll be a clear on-ramp path for various
Yes.
people joining us, uh, be it sponsoring organizations or be it individual developers. Good part is that on the website, through the website, you then go to various channels. I'll also be posting with, how do people get involved. I'll be posting on LinkedIn right after the show. Yeah,
Mhm.
Anais, you were saying something.
Yes, I was about to say that those onboarding paths are not
Hmm.
clear yet on the website, but this is one
Yeah,
part of the documentation that we are updating. The
yeah,
documentation is very clear and there are a lot of information, but
yeah,
we want to make, as you said, easy for people to identify based on my profile or my
yeah,
background what would be the most appropriate path and what steps. So what are
yeah.
the steps for me to engage? So that's something that hopefully by September, I would say end of September, the latest, will be available clearly, yeah, on the
Hmm.
website.
Awesome, awesome. So a lot of things are happening in September. We should
Yes.
definitely have Ganesh Puja, Mohan, as you actually said. It's yeah, it's the aligning of the stars. Sure, Anais. So what is your Anais? What is your recommendation for uh, baselining amongst industries? So you are yourself a consultant. You've
Yeah.
seen finance transformation projects. You've seen digital transformation projects. So which ones do you think are clearly ripe for baselining?
And I will be a bit provocative here because we all know that baselining, when we started discussing the use cases, is amongst different companies. But what we are seeing with conversation is that large enterprises who may have different, either they acquired company or they are going through merger, will benefit. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that we may have surprises at some point on the different type of implementations that we are seeing. So yes, obviously we have the supply chain procurement and those use cases, but I would expect that we will see something different. I cannot say too much about this, but if you have a global corporation large enough that there is some benefit, or if you have investment companies with different companies reporting to the holdings, there is significant value in baselining when it comes to
Yeah.
different reporting and things like that. So those are the use cases that once we, I would say, lower the barrier to implementation by having the right set of tools, and a lot of them will be shared, I believe in October as well, we will have a larger array of use cases that can be articulated. Because right
Hmm.
now, one can argue that, okay, we do need a level of specialist skills that cannot be found in most organizations unless they may have some kind of innovative blockchain specific. And we don't want to do that. So the
Yeah.
next step and to increase adoption would be once the standard is published to have the right tool to be able to deploy those projects in an efficient way. So we
Yeah.
already know the value proposition, but we need to really look at the practicality of managing such a project and
Hmm.
what it involves in terms of resources, skill set, etc. So in terms of industries, the protocol is industry agnostic.
Yeah.
So I would say whoever is listening, if you do see a use case where there is a cost, either in terms of financial cost, efficiency, productivity, where the discrepancy between the data of your organization and another organization that your company is collaborating with, yes, is there. There is a business case. So it's about developing that business case,
Hmm.
yeah, further.
So the
True.
use case that you're talking about specifically, I guess, towards this is the sort of the mergers and acquisitions thing where you want to have, so it's venture capital as well, right? When you're
Mhm.
looking to either invest, you're looking for certain collateral documentation, etc. So compliance. So
Mhm.
if you know that you're going to go into an M&A process, you want to make sure that you are baselining your collateral so that the other organization has the ability to say, hey, here are the things and These are the truths that were developed in process and not like contrived.
Yes, that's one use case. That's one use case of this as well. Yeah. Or it could be that you have different legal entities and that needs to report to the investor company, and they may not use the same ERP or the same system of record. If you look at CRM, and they may have some client base which are overlapping different CRM. Can baselining help with this? Those are the questions we need to ask. I'm not saying, oh, let's go and do it. I'm saying that if the pain points have been identified and baselining as a technique has been identified as a potential answer, the business case needs to be developed for sure. Yeah.
I've got a question. So
Yes.
this is more for people who want to start participating going forward, right?
Yes.
All the people who are interested. So the people I think on this forum are volunteers, right?
Yes.
Coming from different organizations. In your particular case, how much time do you put in so that people kind of know what it is to participate effectively at a high end?
Okay, so factually, and my case is a bit maybe specific. So because I'm part of the mentor team, there is a 1 hour call every 2 weeks. So let's say 2 hours, 3 hours a month, depending on the number of weeks. Because I'm part of the TSC team, when we started, we had TSC call 1 hour per week. Then we moved to every 2 weeks. So that's another. And because I'm part of the standard team, and until then, because we really, really wanted to push things through, we were doing it every week, is an hour. So I would say I'm maybe me and some others, Sam Stoke, Andreas, people who contribute the most from that point of view. So I don't know if we are not the average contributors. So I don't know if it's fair. We don't want to scare people and say you will have so much work. It's not true. If you want to, you can. If it's justified for you, based on commercial interest or other things, the research and development or whatever, of course, do it 100%. However, an individual who would want to contribute could decide. There is no requirement except if they are part of the TSC team, because then you have obligation as part of the TSC to attend, to contribute, to vote for the grants, for example, or if there are events, of course, we will want the TSC to kind of what should be the event and all of those things. So I would say reasonably, I don't know how. That's a difficult question.
Yeah, it is.
Because
the meetings themselves only reflect the common, like,
yes,
meetings only reflect part of the thing, right? There's the background work, which is probably
there is
double the time.
Yes, I would say fairly, but at the same time, if we look at from the standard team, because this is the one that a lot of work, we do working sessions. We work during those sessions. The goal is, once we are not in the session, there is minimal to no work that has to be done. So, of course, we went through a phase at the beginning where we had to find out what is it that we are going to do. This requires asynchronous work and everybody to do their own thing. But then we were through a cadence and we had the frequency right. We had the right set of the agenda was clear, so we could do that. Now that we are reaching the end, we went through a phase that, okay, we need to do some reading outside of the hours as well. So I think it's understanding the different cycles or stages. Once the standard is published, we wouldn't expect to have even this meeting recurring on a weekly basis. For what? I wouldn't be too clear what we want to achieve unless we want to make significant improvements. But so fast, it means that we wouldn't have done our job properly in the first place. So no. So So I would say everybody is welcome. You can put as little or as much effort as you want. That's really my answer.
Yeah. No, a lot of people ask me that question as well when I talk to them about contributing in the Indian community as well. So there have been 2 or 3 conversations which I have very interesting. It's good that you brought this up, Mohan. So one thing which I tell people is that it's up to you. It's all voluntary. It's all open source. It's up to you how you want to contribute and become part of the community. And where do you exactly want to sit? You want to be in one of the organizing committees, or you want to just be a contributor to the code, or you want to be an absolutely silent listener, part of the community, just keep listening updates and use it whenever it is useful for you. So, and then somebody said, this is happening on Saturdays at 6 p.m. My evening is ruined. My my stuff is gone and stuff like that. No, I've got all sorts of
Yeah.
calls, and let this be a clear message to those people. If you want to do different things in life, you have to act differently. This is
Yeah.
all of us have our own day jobs. All of us do things which earn us money, but this is earning us a status. It is earning us knowledge, of course, a great
And the
network of,
money as well.
and the
Sorry to
money as well now
interrupt,
coming in.
but
Yeah,
we have to be clear. Even I think 3 months in, some
yeah.
people they started contributing and they were recruited like this. So
Hmm.
I would say it's a great platform as well. If you show value very fast, it doesn't take
Yeah.
long for opportunities, either if you are employed or business opportunity in terms of partnership to materialize.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say go into it with blind eyes. You have to be clear why you do it. And
Yeah,
if it stopped making sense, okay, you stop making sense. If it still makes sense, it still makes sense. But
yeah.
nobody here is doing it because we have nothing else to do with our life.
Absolutely.
Basically,
Nobody's
I,
doing it
I
for
will be a
fun,
bit cheeky and say that, but yeah, we have an interest and motivation. We have our own
Yeah.
incentives, and
Yeah.
every contributor will have to justify the decision to themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So hearing all this, I once had to move the show from weekdays. I was deciding Fridays earlier and then moved it to Saturday. But then I said, nothing doing now. We have to stick to Saturdays. I can understand weekdays may be busy because of working, your working conditions, your jobs, um and of course working from home has its own perils. People
Yep.
sitting at home, there are no boundaries between the work life and personal life. But baseline has to sit somewhere, and it is doing good for people who've taken on this journey, who've put in that extra effort. So I think this is where we are. This is the tipping point where people have to take a call in their life that if they want to do this, yeah, this is a life decision. Yeah,
Yeah.
I call it like that. That's 1 hour of your life. You are the best judge of what you want to do with that 1 hour of your life. You want to spend it on Netflix, or you want to come to this show, or don't even come to this show. Go to the website and the repo, and start coding.
Yeah.
Whatever suits you. But if people have to make a difference in their life, they have to do different things.
And it's a
I
natural. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm,
Just
I'm
to
gonna I'm
support
gonna
one.
slip this one out, and just my rant, and I'm gonna post it saying
Okay.
a lot of people have been calling me, just saying my Saturday is ruined because of your timing. And yeah, this does not sit well. Anyway, you were saying
Yeah.
something, Anais.
Yeah, I was about to say it's the nature of open source projects, right? It's
Yeah,
not specific to baseline.
yeah,
Any individual who would like to contribute to open source or to research and development, it doesn't have to be technical or even scientific. You will have to do things
yeah,
outside of the day job. I mean, that's just the way it works. I mean, and it's not for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
So, and it's not a problem. It's not a problem. So.
And I think
Absolutely.
this is you're exactly right. Right, when you want to do anything and you're new, you have to actually spend. Right? If you're going to learn a class, you got to do it outside
Exactly,
of your thing, right?
Yes.
And
exactly.
here, there's a benefit in that it's all recorded for you. So if you miss a session, go back,
Yeah,
build the context, and go to the next
yeah,
session. You
yeah,
can't get it easier than that, right? I mean,
yeah.
bottom line.
Absolutely. We are
Exactly.
taking, and people are spending money on this. The Zoom subscriptions and everything. So everything is on the
Yeah.
cloud as well as on YouTube. People can go back anytime and go through it. That's a great point, Mohan, you brought up. So a lot of but there has to be this sense of urgency to join in and start contributing, because there are tons of people who've mentioned various things. One thing which maybe as a group we can address this today. People are waiting for companies to join, and companies are waiting for people to join. Now that's a conundrum, which we see not just in India but otherwise in the West as well. The first group that we came up with was highly motivated people who came in. You look at John's shows from the beginning; they were like a couple of guys showing up and having fun on those calls, and then eventually people started showing interest. Eventually, people joined in as sponsors. So what do you think? What's our message to these guys who are waiting for companies to join and companies waiting for people to join? How should they look at it?
Well,
This
the
is a startup.
reality
This
is
is a
the reality.
startup.
Yeah. Good. I wanted to say that a lot of company will not work in public like this. We are very lucky to have the flagship Coca-Cola, but most companies will not do that. So it's having an understanding as well of how do we assess the work that is being done, because those are private profit generating corporation. There is work and there is competition and things like that. So it's having the understanding. It all starts from seeing the value proposition and understanding the work that is being done. And when there are a demonstration and the use cases from the big company, attending those to see that things are happening in production. So things, if it happens for this large organization, it is happening for another large organization. You may not see it, you may see it, but it is happening. So it's understanding what is not being said. And it's open source, yes. This is why we are having this very open conversation. But the implementation work, this is project work, software being sold, and all of those things. It doesn't happen like in public. People don't show. This is what my business is doing, and
my perspective on this is, you have a lot of blockchain implementations, addressing either some applications, vertical applications, or some horizontal infrastructure. Some of those baseline blockchain implementations go nowhere, right? We know that since 2015, but certainly since 2017, there have been a number of ones. This is different. This is a standard that is supported by the big players, right? I mean, you got the Ethereum, you got Consensus, you got Microsoft. So all coming from different perspectives, right? And you have, as Anais said, you have the Coca-Cola reference implementation starting at this, that has sort of gone through various stages. These big companies don't waste their time. I mean, they don't waste their time. Okay, so both they're investing time. The people who are providing the implementation are investing time, and both parties won't waste time. I mean, bottom line. Therefore, given that, I look at this very simply as, think of it as a startup. This is a startup that actually has legs. If you get in, and if you're a developer, you now become an early developer building things around this, and therefore, when this thing picks up, you are now early skilled in this platform. It's like, when you say, when Python came about in the late 90s, if you were one of the early guys, you were hot commodity, right? So from a developer. From a person involved in the standards, you've gone through the engagement processes. So if a new company is looking to hire, and they want to have a person who understands the architecture, the engage with the organization, so that if there are issues, particular issues that they can have it dealt with, they have a person who they can hire as a person who's a touch point to the protocol, right? And for those who are looking at it perhaps a little more passively, following things on a regular basis, if you're looking to start startup, then you know exactly who the players are, what the scope of this is, what the opportunities. I mean, Anais, you're talking about business cases, right? Use cases. There are use cases that are going to be documented. Those are like someone is throwing out startup ideas there, right? Essentially that. So I think if you don't get involved, you gain nothing. If you get involved in such a small contribution of time, there's so much potential. And I'm not selling this, but I'm basically saying that it's a logical derivations of your time.
Absolutely. So Mark and I, we were discussing on one of our episodes that what are these blockchain projects doing sitting on shelves, and who's the custodian of those blockchain projects which did not yield a lot of value for corporates who had invested in them in the first place. So those can be picked up, revived, and looked at for, is this something which is implementable using baseline? What if we now realize the value? So a lot of, for companies, a lot of that dead weight could be, salvaged in some sense. So for a lot of that, so that's a value I see for companies being early adopters. For individual, of course, Mohan, you articulated very, very correctly that, if you want to be ahead of the curve, you want to be the first one in the line to attract the best of employers. people have to be adept with technologies like this. And this is an initiative which is not going to fail. Just look at the size of companies involved in this, and investment which is gone. So it's not just the 100K which has gone into grants, it's also the collective time investment that all of us are putting in. And that is huge. That is even beyond, way, orders of magnitude way beyond 100K. So that's the value people should be looking at, I believe, when they're joining in.
And I'll throw one more thing. John Wolpert is the architect for Hyperledger Fabric, which is
Yeah,
the
of course.
first blockchain for enterprises. So he's
Yeah.
the guy who's like, sort of pushing the cart here, right? I mean, everybody else is also, but he's the
Yeah.
guy who's pushing the cart here. So take
Yeah.
heart that the guy knows Hyperledger Fabric, which everybody knows. All the enterprises first glance
Yeah.
at blockchain. So he's
Yeah.
saying, forget that. That's old hat. This is the
Yeah.
way to go, right? So
Yeah.
therefore,
Even
got
for
the
those
right guy.
even for those projects to succeed, some of them may have a use case of implementing baseline with Hyperledger. And that is a notion which we want to put out in the world. I think that is something which not a lot of people are still realizing, that this is not competing with Hyperledger or Ethereum. This is augmenting those implementations.
Yeah.
Anais, you want to say something?
No, I wanted to say that, again, I will be a bit provocative. We know we talk about blockchain, existing blockchain implementation, but my perspective has always been that baselining as a technique can solve problems that are beyond the blockchain implementations that are existent. So yes, as a result of selling baselining, we will sell blockchain project with it. But
Yeah.
starting the conversation, we started blockchain will not resonate with a certain type
Yeah.
of stakeholders. And that's why I do believe that there is a lot of value focusing on solving the business and the use cases, articulating those use cases and going
Yeah.
that route as well. I'm not saying, oh, let's not talk blockchain, let's not talk to the innovation. No. I'm saying we need to have both perspectives.
Yeah.
And this is a way to stimulate adoption. And also for us to adapt to the right audience, right messaging, and understand that we will reach different stakeholders and different level of hierarchy differently.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if you are into marketing, business development, and you have worked with a large enterprise, reach the outreach team. So it's not only the developers, because we keep saying, if you're a developer, comes. No, this is a very inclusive. I would
Yeah.
go as far as to say, from any business analyst to the enterprise architect,
Yeah.
in the more technology profiles, but also the pure business side. You
Yeah.
have a problem that you need your team has to face, reconciliating data again and again and again and again and again, or
Yeah.
having those manual processes going back and forth with 2 or 3 partners all the time. It doesn't matter if you don't know what blockchain is. Or I will
Right.
go as far as to go, if service providers are doing their job correctly, if the baseline community is doing its job correctly, we should at least have some attention from those people. If not, I would personally feel that, maybe we were a bit too niche still. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll add a thought. So this morning I had an epiphany moment. And this epiphany moment or eureka moment that I had, was just a regurgitation of something that I have heard on the previous meetings. But it came to me on my own finally, right? So I assimilated it today. And it is basically, if someone asked me, give me an analog of what baseline is, I'd say, you see DocuSign. Sign Now, DocuSign, and the gazillion digital signatures. How important are they? Very, because you have e-signatures, right? You've got a contract, you've got a employment agreement, whatever. You got a number of people, and there's a workflow, step A, step B, step C, participants, you sign it, and it's worth something. But it captures, so that is the similarity to, in my mind, to this in the baselining, in that is dealing with certain documents. There's so many other things that are going outside of documents, right? The documents refer to some set of actions that happen. The documents don't capture those actions. You don't know if those actions were done. right? The documents are promises. Sometimes they are subsequent, attestations, but they don't really correspond very tightly to actual processes. Now imagine DocuSign for actual work that's done. I did this, you did that, etc., etc. That's what baseline is. So if you are a believer in e-signature, this is e-signature, if you want to call it that, of all systems of record signing their thing, saying, I did this, I'm signing it. It's not about humans signing it, it's about processes signing themselves. That's why it's, if you believe in DocuSign, this is so much bigger. I mean, I don't know if that analogy helps. For anybody who's
I think it helps. I think it's it's great.
No, that's the alpha definition of baseline. Absolutely.
Well, no, and it's a really interesting way of putting it, because and we were guilty of this within the blockchain space, to where we were looking at it as a technological puzzle to be solved, and we were incorrect. I mean, we were flat wrong. That it's a business case or a real world application to be realized. And when you look at about what it is you want to do and the why you want to do it, and you start focusing on the how. I mean, it's basically, if it is intuitive, if it is seamless, without having to explain a lot of concepts and introduce a whole host of new vocabulary, this is because from the business side, they say, show me how this is going to work and how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
And so
Mark, to your point, I've been floundering in the same thing that you're talking about, lost in the technology, right? But I remember John always kind of just referring to the hash. We could just hash it, and and he's talking about. In fact, he referred to DocuSign quite some meetings ago. It didn't settle in till today. That's what I'm trying to say. For me, the epiphany came today after all this time. And I said, SHIT. I said, this is huge. If you just think of it the right way. I mean, to your point, Mark.
Yeah. And you're seeing a lot of people that are really, blockchain for a long time was the shiny new penny. Everybody wanted one. And, even myself, we would have people that would come up and say, we want a blockchain. Can you help us out? And I'm like, what do you want to use it for? And they would be like, well, we don't know. We just want a blockchain. And I'm like, okay, this, and since blockchain is based on ecosystem and network effects, it's not something like, that I can take off of the shelf, configure, integrate into your architecture, and then boom, you're blockchaining. And, again, as I had said before with Samrat, I said, blockchain as a technology from a user standpoint is really very boring. It doesn't, it's in the background. You don't have any ideas. It's really only relevant, whenever you need to have query, or if you need to have dispute resolution, or if you have to have audit. Otherwise, you're not going to know. So, I mean, if there were any implementations that had come in and said, yes, we're now blockchaining, if you talk to the people that used it every day, they would say, oh, we are? Oh, okay. When did that start? Because it's really transparent.
Wouldn't you reckon that Ethereum was probably very boring back when, like 6-7 years ago? I mean, what did it do? Nothing. I mean, it sat a long time, right? I mean, today it is what it is. It just takes a breakthrough application, right? The NFTs have kicked it into gear when stock price, took off, right? So it's just that.
Application is a keyword. We need to apply. It's just not having technology for the sake of technology. And of course, there are a lot of technology for technology's sake from an innovation point of view. But because, as Mark said, we are talking about network, baselining is relevant if there are at least two companies working together. So it's not just for vanity projects. That's not how we want to approach it at all. So focusing on application, problem solving, cost reduction, and all of those things, or developing new revenue opportunities on top of baselining. So within a network, if we have a key operator, those are the use cases that I think the next step, and I think a lot will be done in Q4, will help a lot the community and the future, customers of the different companies involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that was a pretty amazing discussion we had today. I think as we get ready for the major releases and the upcoming events, I think it's also important to keep clearing up all of these small points which may be holding people back from participating, and them thinking it's just another blockchain protocol. I think where we really get mixed up with different blockchain protocols is because we've got this, and people are not used to seeing a lot of protocol stuff happening online and people promoting it and stuff like that, unless it's a blockchain protocol where they are trying to promote some coin. Tons of
Yes.
shit coins were built like that. So I think that's where we're getting mixed up,
Yeah.
and that's what I sort of keep pushing in every episode that we do here, that it's not competing with blockchain protocols. It's something which is next level, which is something which is going to be bringing classic systems, if you will call them classic systems, now starting to interface with blockchains. Those classic systems of record, how do they get transformed overnight into consensus controlled state machines? How do they do that? How do they do
So
that?
I would say we have to think of baseline as an open IT standard.
Yeah.
And IT standards are everywhere. There.
Yeah.
So, and if we think of it that way, and we positioning to both C-level technical profile and non-technical profile, it's just another standard, so you can integrate. And how can you integrate? Oh, we can integrate with your network of partners. And we follow the same, I would say, approach that system integration has been for X years. So we need to demystify, and we need to remove the hype, because I would fairly say that it's not justified. We want to really go there and deliver value. And I think from a contributor point of view, both enterprise and individuals, I think that could be the approach that I would personally recommend, to see it. Okay, we are working on the IT standard. What can be done, and to take it from there. We have the excitement that there is blockchain and there is some hype, but this should not be the first thing. That should be secondary. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I think we're at the top of the hour. Any closing thoughts, any parting thoughts, guys? Or are we good? Should we play the music again?
Yes, let's play the music again.
Let's play the music. I would say today was exciting, and I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to get more exciting. So if anybody wants to stay out on the fences, please come in, because excitement is going to build.
Yeah. Okay, so we go. Play the music. Okay, with that, everybody, thank you so much for making it today. I am Samrat signing off. Do join us next week again, 6 o'clock on YouTube every Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Ciao.